One, and we are live. Hey y'all, here again today. This is Paul C. Tarina to talk to you about what about vegan. And I want to be very clear about my message today. This is not an invitation for a debate. So if you're a vegan with very strong opinions about what you're doing, with no interest whatsoever in changing, this is not a place for that discussion. All right, this is a discussion for my people or my soon-to-be people that have genuine questions and concerns around meat and the hype around being vegan and vegetarian. And, you know, I want to do my best to have a healthy discussion around this. All right. So, someone made a comment the other day about having my beanie on. So if you stick around with me to the end of this talk, I will give you instructions on how to get some of my tips and hints on being a successful vegan vegetarian, and then also links to a lot of the resources that we discuss in this talk today. So before I get into some of the details about some of the studies that were in question and some of the documentaries, like things like What the Health, I first want to say what our focus is when we eat real food. First of all, our goal is to help people feel good. That's it. You know, like we're not tied to any dogmatic view about anything just because we believe in it. Like we have reasons for doing what we're doing. We want people to feel good. We want people to have optimal health markers. We want people to experience longevity and quality of life and vibrancy and vitality and all the things that we're looking for that come from a way of eating and all these other lifestyle factors that we recommend. So, and if it didn't work, we wouldn't be teaching it. Like we teach what works and we teach what makes sense. And that's the bottom line. So when we focus on food, our focus is on giving the body nutrients to work with, and then also nurturing self-sufficiency. When we say self-sufficiency, you can think your body's own self-reliance, your body's ability to create energy from several different sources. It gives you metabolic flexibility. So again, when we eat food or when we teach people how to eat food, we recommend focusing on nutrients and then nurturing this capacity for the body to make its own energy. And so when I eat food for nutrients, first of all, to be clear on what we mean by the term nutrients, what we mean by nutrients is giving the body what it needs as the precursors to anything and everything that happens inside the body. So the difference between nutrients and calories is if I assess a food based on calories, I'm looking at a food based on the energy that I can get from that food. But if I eat food that contains nutrients, nutrients are the precursors to structure, form, and function in the body. So everything in my body depends on nutrients to make it. And then all the biochemical and metabolic processes inside my body, my ability to think, my neurotransmitters, everything about me requires specific nutrients or nutrient precursors. And so ideally what I want to do is I want to eat food that gives my body the most stuff to work with. I want to eat food that gives my body the things that it needs to contribute to building this and to contribute to feeling good and having good energy levels and to thinking right? So again, this is not about being dogmatic about a point of view. This is really about understanding what is it that my body needs to function optimally and to build itself optimally. So in a very simplistic way of looking at things, if I want to eat in a way that supports making this body, it might make sense for me to eat things that resemble my body so that I can have the things that I need to make my body, right? So if I eat something that looks like this, it's not a human, but it's from another animal, right? If I eat something that resembles this and this, I give my body what I need to make this. If I eat nothing but lettuce or cabbage or carrots over the long term, my body is going to have a really difficult time converting those different nutrients into what it needs to make this. And that's just from a structure standpoint. Then you think about all the things that we need for all our biochemical, metabolic processes and our ability to think. Our brain, the human brain, is very different from other animals' brains. 25% of the body's cholesterol is contained in the brain, even though the brain only accounts for 2% of the body's total weight, which means there's something important about cholesterol happening in the brain. cholesterol is what is known as the glial factor needed for proper synapse formation. So my ability to think and form connections and have memories and communicate with the rest of my body and my systems and cells and muscles and all this stuff depends on cholesterol and other things, and that's just one example. So again, when we eat for nutrients, and we also eat to nurture the body's ability to be flexible with energy and to use fat when appropriate and to use glucose when appropriate. So first of all, World Health Organization came out. I think the studies were back in 2010, but the World Health Organization came out past several years claiming that processed meats were carcinogens. They classified them as like a class 1 carcinogen, ranked them up there with asbestos, alcohol, and arsenic and tobacco. And so they're implying this big link between meat and cancer, just like they would asbestos and cancer, which is kind of crazy. So, you know, before the message was don't eat meat because it causes cholesterol issues, which cause heart disease. And now that's been debunked so much, we start to hear more and more information about meat causing cancer. And so let's just look at some of the information around this. And again, I'm going to provide some resources where you can go read this information on your own and make your own decision, own judgment on it. But the proof is in the experience. And our people feel amazing. And our people are omnivores, like we eat everything. So if you look at the evidence of the studies used, that the World Health Organization used to publish this information, even the authors of the study say that the correlation between meat and cancer isn't any more significant than what you'd see from chance. And in a lot of cases, eating fresh meat actually correlated with decreases in cancer when you actually learn to look at the data. And an example that I like to use is, first of all, when you see things like this that are perpetuated in mainstream circles and conventional wisdom news sources about studies, they're not really studies. They're what is known as observational or epidemiological studies. And these observational or epidemiological studies, hey y'all, so good to see y'all, love it. These epidemiological and observational studies are really just looking at population data, and that data comes in from a lot of different sources in a lot of different ways. And they're just making associations and correlations based on this information. And so an example that I like to use is, you know, if I were to go around Las Vegas at any given point in time and find a building that was on fire, I would also find the fire department there. Now, we all know that the fire department there is to put out the fire. We know that the fire department did not cause fires. I would not make the ridiculous mistake of saying, every time I go and find a house that's burning down, I see the fire department, therefore the fire department caused the fires. But that's what we see a lot of people do with these associations and these epidemiological studies, is they see these correlations between different data groups, and they automatically imply that those things cause each other. And correlation does not equal causation. That's something that's really, really well known in the scientific realm. And so you have to do a lot more digging. So there's one thing that is very problematic with observational studies, and especially when it comes to health topics, and that's what we call healthy user biased. And that's really just a fancy way of saying someone that is healthy, that tends to be healthy, tends to do other things that are healthy. And just like someone that tends to be unhealthy also does other things that are unhealthy. Okay, so if meat has been perpetuated as this horrible thing that causes cholesterol issues and heart disease and now causes cancer, then someone that's very healthy is probably going to avoid meat because they think that it's not good for you. And that someone that's probably very healthy also probably engages in other activities that are helpful. So they probably don't smoke, they probably don't do drugs, they probably don't drink in excess, they probably do yoga or fitness or exercise, they probably try to get good sleep and all these other things that contribute to health. So if I look at a person and that person is extremely healthy and they just so happen to not eat meat because they're told that meat's bad for you, are they healthy and do they have good health markers because they're not eating meat? No, they're healthy because they're healthy. They do all these other things that are healthy. And then the same thing with people that are unhealthy. So if I look at someone, this again, we're talking about healthy user bias. If I look at someone that is unhealthy and they're probably going to engage in other unhealthy behaviors. You know, so someone that is unhealthy, that smokes, that drinks, that stays up late, that goes out and parties a lot, that eats processed food, that eats pizza, is not going to listen to the mainstream advice about meat causing cancer and being bad for you because they do all these other things that are bad for you. So then when these people are unhealthy, are they unhealthy because they're eating meat? No, they're unhealthy because they're doing all these other things that are not healthy for you. So that's one of the biggest problems that we see associated with all these claims about meat causing cancer and meat causing heart disease. Meat in many situations is an innocent bystander in this really complex and confusing myriad of information that gets compiled together in these observational studies. Another thing that makes things a little bit more difficult to interpret the data is a lot of these studies are based off of dietary surveys. And in these dietary surveys, it's really interesting to see how these different food categories are lumped together. So you'll see that in most situations, meat is, or certain things are classified as meats. So like pasta sauce, lasagna sauce, pizza sauce are all qualified as meat and processed meat, which means that if you eat lasagna or you eat pizza, you're also being classified as someone that eats meat and eats processed meats. And then finally, another point along those lines is that, no one is saying that highly processed food in general is going to be good for you. So someone that eats highly processed meat is doing damage to their body just like someone that eats highly processed foods of any other variety. What we're looking for is to eat fresh food that has a vitality component to it. And fresh food includes meats and fats and vegetables, and it does not include highly processed food, right? So, and then processed, it can be a little bit of a nuanced statement term because, some of the processed things that are considered processed meats we absolutely love, like bacon and high quality hot dogs and things like that. I mean, I guess that's something for another discussion down the road. So, and I see we've got some people joined in here, listening and watching. So I am going to stick around a little bit afterwards so that I can answer questions if we have any questions. And if you're not here and you watch this later and you want to make some comments, and then I'll answer the questions later. So veganism is both the practice of abstaining from the use of animal products and consuming animal products. And you have different versions of vegans and veganism. So we have dietary vegans, which obviously include people that are just not going to eat animal-based products. And then we have ethical vegans, which have more of a philosophical view about the humane treatment of animals. And then we have environmental vegans, which are concerned about the environment and the impact of animals on the environment. So there's several different classifications of vegans. What we really like about, first of all, I just want to say that vegan is a subset of real food. All right, our definition of real food is a much broader and bigger picture than any one of these subsets of real food. And so when we work with people, we want people to understand this bigger, broader picture because everyone is bio-individual. Everyone responds to things just a little bit different. And so if I understand this big umbrella definition of real food, then within that umbrella definition of real food, I can start to experiment and pay attention to my body and see what things resonate with me and understand that over the long term, what resonates with me right now might not resonate with me in 3 months or 6 months or a year or 2 years or 5 years. I'm always evolving and adapting. I'm always changing things up. And what worked for me a few years ago may not work for me now, and it may work again in the future. Like, who knows? So it's all about experimentation over the long term. What we do like about the vegan movement, number one, is they're a subset of real food. So we're brothers from another mother. We're sisters from another mister. Like we believe in the same things. Like we believe in fresh real food. We believe in eating fresh real food. We love the idea that vegan, for a lot of people, moves people away from eating crap food and processed food into this real food realm. Now, by the way, if I've got someone that's eating the standard American diet and having spaghetti several times a week and doing pizza once a week and all the other things that most people do on a regular basis, and all of a sudden they get it in their mind that they want to go vegan because they think it's healthy, and they go vegan and they lose weight and they feel great and they have better energy levels, are there changes because they didn't eat meat and they went vegan, or is it because they went to real food and fresh food? It's because they went to real food and fresh food. We see this transition happen all the time. Over the long term, we don't think it's going to be very beneficial, but over the short term, like vegan can be an extremely beneficial therapeutic protocol. Also, another thing that we love about the vegan movement is the ethical treatment of animals. Like we're all about that. We're all about food quality. We're all about understanding that the better that the animal is treated and the better the animal is raised and the better that animal eats, the better it is for us and the people that consume it. And then also, you know, we mentioned before, like we really embrace this idea of using vegan as a short-term therapeutic protocol. So we have a great detox program, several different detox programs running right now, and it's very vegan-based because it minimizes digestive effort and allows the body to heal a little bit, because eating meat and eating fats does require strong digestion, and that's not that it's a bad thing, but it's good to bounce in and out of that periodically. So those are the things that we love about the vegan movement. Some of our concerns, it's too restrictive over the long term. You know, you can do it for a short period of time, but to be strict vegan, especially if you're doing like a strict raw vegan, that's very difficult to maintain over the long term. Very restrictive. People tend to bounce out of that pretty quick. And I'm not saying everybody. And to my knowledge, there's not a human population on the planet that eats strict vegan and has superior health markers generation after generation after generation. And we see this in the work of people like Dr. Weston A. Price and Dr. Francis Pottinger, and there's some other pioneers out there, and I've got some good resources if anybody asks me about that. And then we also start to notice nutritional deficiencies over the long term. Specifically vitamin B12, which we hear a lot about, and then also you lack the storage form of iron, which is a bioavailable form that's very easy to obtain from animal sources. And then also zinc, EPA, and DHA, and then the most important to me is going to be the fat-soluble nutrients, vitamins A and vitamin D. And the animal versions of these nutrients are going to be very different from the plant-based versions of these nutrients. Now, some people would argue that there are some vegans that thrive and do really well on a vegan diet, right? And you see it all the time on vegan magazines and vegan bodybuilders and, you know, people that look great and healthy. Well, there's always exceptions to the norm, because I could point out some top CrossFit athletes that look unbelievably amazing and are shredded, and they eat McDonald's and Taco Bell every day. And I can point out people, you know, like walking down the street and that are members of the gym that look absolutely amazing. They don't do the right things. Now, does that mean that that's the way to do things, or are they looking that way and perceived to be that way because in spite of those things that they're doing? There are some vegans that have the genetic predispositions to make certain nutrient conversions that most people don't have the ability to do. You know, so beta carotene is one of the famous ones. You know, beta carotene in the vegan world is mistaken for vitamin A, and it's not vitamin A. It's the precursor to vitamin A, and most human beings do not convert beta carotene into vitamin A very well. I think it's an estimated maybe 3 to 11% or something like that. Most humans need to get vitamin A, retinol, true vitamin A, from animal sources, because it's very easy for the body to assimilate and take up. But there are some people that can make that conversion, and so they're going to do relatively better on a vegan diet. Some vegans have more amylase starch persistency, or amylase starch digesting enzyme persistency. So if you have this capacity to digest carbohydrates more than someone else, you're going to do better on a higher carbohydrate diet, which a vegan diet is going to be a little bit higher in carbohydrates. And so maybe that would be something that would make you predispose you to doing better on a vegan diet. But what we'd say is that being an omnivore is going to be the way to go, because being an omnivore it just gives you the best of everything. You know, you want a broad spectrum of nutrients. You want to facilitate your body's ability to do what it needs to do to make itself properly, to contribute to all the different processes inside the body. And that means that we advocate being an omnivore. We advocate a balance of animal meats and a lot of variety of animal meats. We include organ meats in that. And then we also include things like connective tissue and consuming things like bone stock and collagen, because if I consume connective tissue like tendons and ligaments and collagen, I give my body what I need to make my tendons and ligaments and collagen and everything else. And then we see a lot of importance in plant matter, because plant matter gives us a lot of micronutrients. And those micronutrients are very beneficial, but those micronutrients don't do a lot to build this body. They facilitate a lot of other things inside the body. So we recommend a balance over time. And I think that's about all I got for right now. I want to finish with, it's not just about what is real food, which, by the way, our definition of real food is a broad, encompassing definition, very forgiving. It's very beautiful. It's a great way of eating. It's all about like how to make that work in your lifestyle and figuring out what things resonate with you the most. And within that umbrella definition of real food, we want people to understand this bigger picture. We don't want people to associate themselves with paleo or primal or Weston A. Price. in and of themselves. We want people to understand what makes those different methodologies, and vegan, what makes those methodologies unique, what makes them successful, and understand that I'm a real foodie to the core. And I'm willing to bounce in and out of all these different methodologies to experiment to see what works for me, because what works for me is not going to work for someone else, and that's going to change over time as well. And you know, we love food, we adore food, and we want to do what makes us feel good, and we want to do what makes other people feel good, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. Okay, so final plug, and then I'll answer any questions that we have, and I don't see any questions just yet. You know, we have our Superhuman Transformation kicking off in 2 days at 11:30 on Saturday, and in the Superhuman Transformation, we cover everything about real food you could possibly imagine. We teach you what real food is. We teach you how to implement real food in a way that facilitates self-sufficiency and fat burning. We teach you how to do a low-carb phase properly and safely. We teach you how to cleanse your body, and also how to test your body for specific foods like starches and sugars and nuts and seeds and dairy products, so that you come out of this understanding a customized way of eating for you. We also experiment with strategic fasting protocols, but then we get into so much more. Like, we get into things like the benefits of grounding and being in touch with the earth and being outdoors. We get into a lot of information about circadian rhythms and setting sleep patterns and optimizing hormonal patterns based on those sleep patterns. And we also get into my little baby, which is like meditation and mindfulness practices. Because most people, when they start to figure this other stuff out and they start to feel good, a whole new world opens up to them. And it makes it way easier to sit and practice and meditate and have a mindfulness practice. And this is how we cultivate the life of our dreams. We start with feeling good. We start with eating right, sleeping right, and doing all these other things that we know contribute to health. Once you feel good, you can dream again, and then everything else changes. It's great. It's beautiful. All right. So I'm going to stick around for a little bit. Let me see if we have any questions. And I don't see anything just yet. I've been on for 21 minutes. That's crazy. All right, y'all, if we got any questions, let me know. If I feel like we have a little bit of a delay here, because I know we have a lot of people that have been watching, we're watching, and it only shows like one viewer up there. I know we've got a lot more than that. So any questions or comments while I'm on here live, let me know. Good to see y'all. All right, I'm not seeing anything. What's up, y'all? I thought this was like a really, I hate to say controversial topic, but something like that. All right, well, I'm going to shut this down, but I will be monitoring the comments. So if you have any questions, please comment and let us know. And I think that's about it. May the power of real food be with you, because it's certainly with me, and it's certainly with all my people, because we feel amazing.